we came up with these other concepts, or these concepts in insurance came to be known of, to quote Katy Perry, your hot and your cold storage. You didn't see that one coming, did you?
I did not.
But this idea that, basically those coins that you have in hot storage, so those that are out on the market, are more risky than those that you've got stored offline effectively. In cold storage, and so different rates would be applied depending on how your coins were looked after effectively. But they had to come up with some kind of parameters.
But cold storage, whilst it's protected from the risk of hacking to some degree, it's the equivalent of burying money underneath your house, or there was a famous story from a number of years ago where it was like drug dealers in Latin America or something, but there was a massive fire that had come through and just burnt hundreds of millions of dollars that were like buried in the woods. And cold storage, and there's a story out maybe a few weeks back now, but there was a person who had a jump drive with like a couple million pounds of crypto on it, and they had like one more password guess before the thing would be locked forever. And like, that's also the risk of pure cold storage, is that if you get locked out, and the way crypto often gets set is you have to have these really long, complicated passwords to sort of lock the data, that it presents a risk of going, if you forget where you wrote that down, that is forever inaccessible, and that's equally frightening, right? So again, when you look at it and compare it to the sort of rise and stabilization of fiat currencies around the world, we had to build mechanisms to make it safer to be in a bank than be buried in your backyard. We had to make it safer to trade so we solved these problems bit by bit by bit, and I think cryptocurrencies will go through a similar journey. But you raise an interesting analogy from an insurance perspective on how we protect and, let's say, underwrite this risk. It's the same way a couple hundred years ago we'd have all these fires, and we would say, okay, we'll insure you now, but are you locking your doors? Are you building your building in a way that is at least, more secure and more fireproof than the old way? And I think when you look at how we underwrite most insurance risks, we'll sort of go through and go, are you protecting yourself before we insure you? Are you trying to mitigate your risk? I think we'll do the same thing in crypto going forward, is ensuring and forcing that sort of diligence of underwriting.